I talk about slapping hoes. So this is not a picture of her, but in college I dated a girl who was Chinese Cuban. Looks kind of like that. She was, I think, I don't know, maybe like 5'1", maybe 5'2". Anyway, the point being is I slapped her once. So I slapped her, and to me this is still the weirdest fucking thing. So I slap her, and you see that girl right there? The girl's name is Claudia. She used to live about a couple blocks from me. So this girl, Laura, she we're living together, but we really should be breaking up, and we're kind of doing the whole breaking up, staying together, breaking up, staying together thing. She calls my mother a bitch. I slap her one time, literally just one time, and then this is the weirdest thing, right? So the whole thing about it is, so the reason I slapped her was because, and obviously I didn't know about domestic violence laws and everything else back then. I slapped her specifically because I thought that would be the end of the relationship. Like, I was like, all right, there's no way she's gonna be okay with it, right? But then she did this fucking really weird thing where she was very upset about the fact that I slapped her, but she never called the cops at all. I guess this is the biggest thing, right? So she's like from Milpitas, Cuban girl. I would really thought that she would have been the one to have called the cops, even off that one little slap. Like, it just seems as if, like, I would have thought she would have been the one to have gotten me arrested off of slapping her. And the fact of the matter is, instead of that, we did this very, like, Latino fucking shit, which is, it's like we had a meeting and shit. We basically went over Claudia's house. Claudia was dating this dude at the time. And it was very coupley, you know what I mean? Like, they sat there and they went over it. And I just, the entire, like, the thing is, like, I didn't really want to slap. I'm not really violent like that. So, like, I didn't really want to slap her. So I felt bad about slapping her. But I didn't feel bad about slapping her because, like, the whole time I was like, yo, why are we even still together? Like, this is weird. Like, I slapped you so we wouldn't be together. You know what I mean? And then, like, we're like, you're still acting like, we're together. So I don't know. It always threw me off, but I never really thought about it, like I said, because there were no police involved. She never even threatened it or whatever. And the weird thing about life is, so the next boyfriend that she had, or not necessarily the next, but she ended up having this boyfriend afterwards, who she got in an argument with and apparently hit him with a pillow, like straight up, like she hit him with a pillow. And he got a restraining order against her because of it, which is it's fucking hilarious, right? So she contacts me and she's like, dude, this dude is trying to get a restraining order against me. Would you at least say that when we were together, I've never been violent and everything else? And it wasn't necessarily true, because she had gotten a little violent when we were together. But I was like, yeah, no, because, like, that was fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, hitting the dude with a pillow isn't, you necessarily shouldn't get a fucking restraining order against you for it, right? So I write this whole letter about, like, no, Laura was never violent when we were together, and she's not that type of person, and everything else. But we're not together at that point. Obviously, she was dating somebody else, and, like, it was just more like a friend thing, and I just kind of let it go, right? But then years later, with the mother of my child, even though I never touched her, this is still the fucking weirdest thing to me. So I'd never touched her whatsoever. I've never even slapped her. I still to this day wish I would have, because realistically, the mother of my child deserved a slap more than my other ex-girlfriend, who never even called the cops. And then apparently the mother, she said apparently she never called the cops, and it was like other people or some shit like that. But either way, I've gotten arrested twice off of allegations off the mother of my child with absolutely zero evidence, like no bruising, because I didn't touch her. I never fucking touched her. And yet, realistically, if you would have thought it was going to be somebody, you would have thought it was going to be the fiery Cuban who fucking doesn't put up with shit and everything else. And, like, seriously, she doesn't. But she's never really had, like, she's always been mad upset at me for slapping her. She still, like, brings it up like it's this huge big deal. But when you take her actions that day, she obviously wasn't afraid of me. She didn't have any problems with me. Like, realistically, I thought she was going to, like I said, her parents they live in San Jose. So I thought she was going to leave to San Jose that day, which I thought would be better, because obviously we shouldn't be together. She's calling my mother a bitch. I'm slapping her. obviously we should probably break up, you know what I mean? But like she ended up wanting to stay and like all that shit. And then yeah, like with the mother of my child, even though I've never touched her, even though I've never actually fucking slapped her or done anything to her, physically like that, I've actually fucking had domestic violence charges. I mean, they've been dismissed because there hasn't been any fucking evidence, and like nothing's come of it necessarily. But it's a fucking big deal. And I don't know. I was just thinking about it because I was thinking about fucking slapping bitches, and like this is not really something I do. And the only time I've ever done it was literally one time. Definitely not as hard as I possibly could. And it was just because she fucking called my mother a bitch, and I just slapped her once on the fucking cheek. But yeah, I don't know. To me, I think it's just the weirdest. It's the weirdest fucking thing because I guess just the way life goes. Like Laura had always been very anti-violence, which I was always down with because I'm very anti-violence. But she had gotten violent a few times with me, and obviously I got violent with her that time where I fucking slapped her. So it was this weird thing where we were both very anti-violent, right? But then, like, realistically, with the mother of my child, she had been in an abusive relationship before. And so I was a little bit more tolerant of the mother of my child being violent with me because I was just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what she's used to. And, like, I don't know, like, it's kind of a fucked up way of viewing it. But it was different because, like, Laura and me, like, the girl picture, whatever, not really pictured, but signifies the girl picture. Me and her had always been very anti, all that shit. Anyway, I'm repeating myself. Point being, I've never really had a discussion with anybody about how fucking weird this is because I didn't realize that, like, realistically, the girlfriend that I slapped would have been the one who you would have thought that I would have had, like, domestic violence charges against and would have fucking hated me for the rest of my life and been out there saying like he's such an asshole and everything else. And yet she turned around and wrote a letter for me when the mother of my child accused me of being violent. She wrote a letter saying that I had never been violent with her, which I felt weird about because I had actually slapped her. And that's why, like, that's how fucking weird of a person I am. Because I had actually slapped her, I didn't feel comfortable with her saying that I had never been violent with her, even though I needed her to, so that, because it was, for court proceedings. And I had done the same for her in the sense that, like, she had kind of gotten violent with me, but I was like, no, she's never been violent, blah, blah, blah. So, anyway, just fucking recapping that thing, because it's one of the weirdest situations of my life, with women in a certain sense of, like, I would have really thought, like, if it was going to be somebody who was going to ruin my life or, like, accuse me of being violent and all this shit, it would be Laura, the person I actually slapped, and she's never have. As a matter of fact, she has fucking stood up for me more than once, but definitely once also in court, which is a weird thing. Like, she actually went, she didn't go to court, but she wrote a whole statement to the court. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, yeah.